If every one of the 60 guards and officials at Granite River Prison had been asked for the name of the most popular guard on the force, there would have been 60 answers. Asa Shores. If each of the 1,500 convicts in the prison had been asked which guard was most disliked by the convicts, 1,500 answers would have been the same. Asa Shores. If some curious person had asked of each convict and each guard who is considered the most desperate, the hardest, the shrewdest criminal in the prison, the answer would have been unanimous. Malcolm Halsey, the lifer. This is how the story The Ghost Guard by Bryan Irvine begins, and it is a story from the first issue of Weird Tales. It is... I went through the first issue of Weird Tales, and I read pretty much everything, or at least, kind of skimmed through it to see if there was something there. And this story, despite it being a rather simple ghost story, is actually a very solid ghost story. It's not unpredictable, it's not complex, but it does a very good job of building up two things. Number one, atmosphere, and number two, ambivalence about the main character, Asa Shores. Now, that part that I just read to you, all of the guards love Asa Shores and all of the convicts hate him. And the author goes on to ask the obvious question. Well, surely if Asa Shores was bad enough a man to be hated by every convict, then surely at least one of the guards would, just by a sense of, mercy or just proportionality, dislike Asa Shores' methods. But that's not true either, because Asa Shores is not just cruel. He's not cruel. He's more like duty without mercy. If a convict is attempting escape, he will shoot as his duty without fail and without regard for the gravity of their crimes or how long they're still supposed to be staying in the prison. But at the same time, he never, and it's noted in the story that he never exhibits anger or wrath or hatred towards the convicts. He's never mean, he's never abusive, he never even frowns at a convict. He just sees them all as the same, and his duty toward them as all the same. And along the same lines, it's very strange because when he's not on duty, he's actually a very, friendly and happy person. The author puts it this way, that when he's on duty, he's, quote, unnatural, cold, vigilant, unfeeling, end quote. But at the same time, when he's off the job, quote, he is, quote, the life of the guard's quarters, a big, good-natured, playful fellow, who thoroughly enjoyed a practical joke, whether he be the victim of the joke or the instigator. If he had a temper, he had never allowed it to come to the surface. He found more funny stories than any other man on the force. The trite old saying that he would give a friend the shirt off his back fitted him like a new kid glove. He gave freely to his friends, and in giving seemed to find real joy. And it's in this duality that I found this story to be very interesting, just because of the very interesting and nuanced treatment of this character, Asa Shores. Now, of course, the writing of the story is actually very good, too. The descriptions of things are solid, not just of places or things, but also of characters' states of mind. There's a few points where different characters' internal feelings or thoughts or monologues come to the forefront of the story, and I think that Bryan Irvine handles it very well in each case. The story has a very steady pace that kind of gradually increases to the climax at the end. He spends the proper amount of time on creepy moments, neither dragging it out nor glossing over things, and he adds just enough explanation so that you can know that what's happening shouldn't be. He uses cut-off statements and partial words, stutters, things like that to very skillful effect in the story, and he does a very good job of creating a very dark setting. It's a prison in the middle of a swampy forest. It's dreary, and there's a dreary, hopeless sense that the convicts have, as well as kind of an isolated, paranoid sense that the guards have. There's a conflict here between duty and justice and mercy, and this story brings it to the forefront. Asa Shores himself is kind of a weird character. You don't like him, but you don't hate him either, is the conclusion that I drew from reading the story. So, as I said, there's one main character, Asa Shores, who is the prison guard du jour. And then we have the Malcolm Halsey. He's serving a life sentence. He's, quote, I already said it, but he's the most desperate, the hardest, the shrewdest criminal in the prison. And it's very interesting the way that Shores as a character is built up. The author says that Asa Shores' great-great-grandfather had followed the prisons as mariners follow the seas. Then Asa's grandfather took up the work and followed it with an iron hand and an inflexible will, until one day a cell-made knife, in the hands of a long-time con, entered his back at a point where his suspenders crossed, deviating enough to the left to pierce his heart. Came next Asa Shores' father, who went down in attempting to quell the famous Stromberg break of 1895. It's interesting because it is the duty of prison guards to stop the escapees. They're not going to get reprimanded for being good shots, right? Yet at the same time, even Asa Shores' boss is a little bit worried about him. Quote, "When Asa shot and killed Richard Mutt Allison, when the latter attempted to escape, the warden had said, 'There was really no need of killing that half-witted short-termer, Asa. He was doing only a year and was perfectly harmless. A shot in the leg or foot would have been better.' And Asa's reply had been, 'I had no idea who the man was, though I have seen him dozens of times, and I did not know how long he was doing, but I would have made no difference if I had known. He was a convict, sir, and he was attempting to escape. If he was only half-witted, as you say, he should have been in the insane asylum, not at the penitentiary.' So that was that. And yet at the same time, if Asa ever gave a convict a smile, it had never been recorded. It is a known fact that he was never seen to frown upon a convict. So this is interesting. We get this character, Asa Shores, who we have mixed feelings about him. The author does a very good job of making us have mixed feelings about him. We get the antagonist, Malcolm Halsey, and by the way, it's not just that we get mixed feelings about Asa Shores' sense of justice or proportionality. We also get Asa Shores singing a very creepy song at night. The lyrics go as such. "When I die and am buried deep, I'll return at night to take a peep at those who hated me. I'll haunt their homes and spoil their sleep. Chill their blood, the skin will creep on those who hated me." So already we've got a fairly masterful creation of kind of conflicting feelings as well as creepiness and weirdness, right? We've got the creepiness of the song. We've got the weirdness of Asa's kind of inability to tell one convict from another. We've got on the other side, we've got the force of, duty versus mercy versus kind of, desert, right? And so what ends up happening is that Bryan Irvine, ends up creating a really interesting little ghost story that I think is definitely worth reading. And there will be links in the description for you. Okay, so we are here, and I'm going to call this the spoiler line, or for lack of a better term. I've kind of given you the background. I've given you a few quotes from the beginning part of the story. We're going to go into actual plot synopsis and kind of see where things go. So, the way that this story begins, the actual action of the story begins, is that Malcolm Halsey tries to escape while the prison is being expanded. What basically happens is that the wall between Towers 3, where Shores sits, and Tower 4, the wall is taken down. They put up a barbed wire fence, and then during the day, the prisoners extend the walls around so that they build a new fourth tower, a new third tower, and walls between them to extend the prison, basically. Now, one of the nights, while only this barbed wire fence is up there, Malcolm Halsey tries to escape, and Shores hits him, not in the heart, as he usually does, but in the shoulder. And this is another very weird point that happens, because basically Shores shoots him, sees him fall, and then a few seconds later yells, "Halt!" And there's an interesting interaction there that I think is worth reading. Because Halsey gets a chance to actually talk to Shores and ask him questions. So here we go. While off duty one day, Asa, prowling about inside the walls, Met Malcolm Halsey. The lifer was still a bit pale and weak from the gunshot wound. "One thing I'd like to have you explain, Mr. Shores," said Halsey. "You plugged me in the shoulder, then yelled, 'Halt!' Why didn't you command me to stop before firing?" "Well, it was this way, Halsey," Asa replied, unsmiling and looking the convict squarely in the eye. "I aimed at the spot where I calculated your heart ought to be, but the light was poor and I had to shoot quick. I naturally supposed you were dead when I commanded you to halt, and believing you dead, I could see no reason for being in a hurry with the command. Sorry I bungled the job that way, but my intentions were good." "But," the scowling lifer persisted, "you haven't told me yet why you shot before commanding me to halt." "Oh, that," Asa drawled with a deprecatory shrug of his massive shoulders. "That is merely a matter of form with me. I very often, after shooting a convict, yell 'Halt!' sometime the next day or week. Besides, if you had a nice chance to bump me off, you wouldn't say, 'Beware, Mr. Shores, I'm about to kill you.'" For half a minute, convict and keeper gazed into each other's eyes. "I get you," Halsey finally said. "And I guess you're right. I have an idea, though, that my turn comes next, Mr. Shores, and there'll be no preliminary command or argument." "Fair enough, Halsey," Asa replied as he turned away. Now that is a really weird... I mean, first off, to shoot first and then yell halt, is one thing. But then the explanation is at the same time kind of unsettling and almost comical, while also kind of making its own kind of weird internal sense, right? It's like, well, yeah, I shot to kill. I didn't expect my halt to mean anything. I might yell halt a week later after I shoot somebody, and it's just a matter of form. And then the guy saying, "Well, you should yell halt before you shoot," and he's like, "Look, if you got behind me and you had a chance to kill me, you wouldn't yell something to warn me before you did it, would you?" And Halsey is forced to admit, "Yeah, I guess you're right. If I'm attempting to escape, I may be shot, and that's kind of part of the deal." Now, the construction continues, and one day when the construction is basically done, they're having kind of a party day. All the buildings done, and they're kind of having like a festival. They're having giving the convicts a little bit more freedom in the newly expanded yard, basically. And during this time, Shores is all by himself in one particular area. I think he's in the third tower, or like the bottom of the third tower, and he's found dead. He's singing his little song, and he gets cut off in the middle of the song. He's murdered, his throat cut. Halsey is suspected, but there's no evidence against him. Now, after this, Old Tower 3, they kept it there for Shores to be there, because they thought, well, we'll give him that, and then we'll have new Towers 3 and 4, and we'll put different people on there. So once Shores is dead, they actually close down Old Tower number 3. It's kind of locked up and blocked off and boarded up. However, what the captain discovers one night, as he's asking various people at the towers to kind of report in and give the A-OK, is that there's some weird voices and signals coming from Old Tower number 3. Now, here he gets into the situation where at first he doesn't investigate. He's just kind of like, this is freaky. And the freakiness is very well handled. There's, electrical things that shouldn't be happening, and sounds and voices, and you never really know 100% whether it's in his head or whether it's something that's actually happening, and that's kind of fun. And then a little later on, they actually do an investigation, and they open up old, closed-up Tower number 3, Old Tower number 3, and they find that nothing seems to be amiss there. All the stuff is dusty. There's no sign that anyone's been using the phone or pushing buttons or anything like that. And so the question remains, is this all in their heads? Are they hallucinating this? Or is there really some kind of a haunting going on? Stuff goes quiet, and there's not really, everybody kind of forgets about it. But then, Halsey plans another attempt at escape. And I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to kind of stop spoiling things to a certain degree, but let me just say that his plan is clever, it's tense, and it's very ruthless. It's a very fun little, kind of prison escape plan, at least as far as the writing goes. It's very well done. And then, by his own, by his own skill and luck, Halsey gets a 7-minute head start on the guards as he runs out of the prison and tries to get the hell out of there. And at that point, he's seven minutes away, in this dark forest in the middle of the night, and, well, that's where the ending comes in. And I'm going to leave that ending for you to go and read. What I'll say about it is that it is descriptive, freaky, and a little bit ambiguous, just like Asa Shores himself. So yeah, I found this to be one of the stories that I liked the most out of the ones that are in the first issue of Weird Tales. As I said before, I'll have 2 links for you. There's a link for the paper scan of the Weird Tales issue that I will provide, and then there's also a wiki source, kind of slightly more readable version of it, although it has a few added typos. And even the Weird Tales version has some typos in it. But anyway, it's a really good story. It's not very long. It's a fun read, and it's by an author that I've never really heard anyone talk about him before. But yeah, Bryan Irvine handled this story very well. Even though it's a fairly simple, straightforward story, it's got a lot of that, goose flesh story feel that Weird Tales claimed it was going for back in the day. So yeah, I hope you'll go check this story out. I hope that I separated between non-spoiler and spoiler appropriately. I don't know. This is kind of a new thing I wanted to try based on some comments and feedback that I gotten, so figured I'd give it a shot. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you like the channel, like what I'm doing, you want to support the channel, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. You know what all that is. Links in the description as usual, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your week.